the WNBA just dropped its all-defensive teams. And somehow, unbelievably, Angel Reese's name was nowhere on that list. The same Angel Reese who led the league in rebounding, shut down elite scorers night after night, and turned defense into an art form. Left off completely. The question isn't just how that happened, it's why. Because when you really look at what went down, this isn't just a snub, it's a statement, and not a good one. Before we break down the receipts, the numbers, and the behind-the-scenes politics that may have led to one of the most head-scratching all-defensive decisions in years, do one quick thing for me. If you're someone who respects the grind, the effort, and the players who give everything on both ends of the court, hit that button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe. We've got to talk about this, so here's where it all starts. The league announced its all-defensive first and second teams. Names like Aja Wilson, Kalia Copper, Gabby Williams, and Breanna Stewart were all there. But when fans scrolled down hoping to see Angel Reese, there was nothing. Crickets. No mention. It hit like a shockwave. Even people who don't root for Chicago had to pause and say, wait, what? Because this rookie just had one of the most complete defensive seasons in the entire league. And that's not opinion. That's math. Reese was number 1 in rebounds. Number 1. She ranked top 10 in both steals and blocks. Opponents shot just 37% when she was guarding them, and only 16% on post-ups. 16%. That's lockdown defense, the kind you build a team around. But apparently the voters didn't see it. Or worse, they ignored it. Now, here's where things start to get weird, because some of the players who did make the team, like Ryan Howard and Breanna Stewart, barely played full seasons. Injuries, missed games, limited minutes. Yet somehow they were rewarded. So you start to wonder, was this really about performance or about names? Because if its names were rewarding, Angel Reese never stood a chance. See, here's the thing about Angel. She plays with fire, passion, attitude, the kind that makes people pick a side. You either love her energy or you get irritated by how much attention she gets. And that's exactly the problem. Sometimes, in sports, being too visible makes people move the goalposts. Suddenly, you're not judged by what you do on the court. You're judged by how people feel about you off it. But let's be real. If defense is about stopping the best players, Angel did that. Look back at her matchups. Against Aja Wilson, she held her to one of her lowest shooting nights of the year. Against Stewie, same story. Against Boston, she battled, she bodied up, and she made shots uncomfortable. Yet when the list came out, the names on there didn't even make sense. Players who barely guarded anyone one-on-one were suddenly being celebrated as defensive specialists. That's when fans started saying what everyone was thinking. The voters aren't watching the games. Because you can't lead the league in rebounding, be top tier in every major defensive stat, and not even get a mention, unless something deeper is going on. And maybe there is. Let's look closer. A lot of analysts are saying the selection committee leaned heavily on defensive rating. Now, that's a stat that depends as much on who you play with as how well you defend. If your team has bad defenders around you, your personal defensive rating suffers, even if you're doing everything right. It's like blaming the security guard for a robbery because the cameras didn't work. That's exactly what happened with Angel. She was the defensive engine on a struggling Chicago Sky Squad, the only one holding the line. Meanwhile, players on elite defensive teams benefited from context. They looked better on paper because their teammates covered their mistakes. Gabby Williams, for example, she led the league in steals, but that doesn't tell the full story. She wasn't locking up the opponent's best scorer, she was jumping passing lanes. That's not shutdown defense, that's anticipation. Valuable, sure, but not the same. And then you have Aaliyah Boston. Great player, great size, but elite defender? Not quite. Go back and watch the film. Boston relies heavily on physicality. She pushes, grabs, holds. She uses her strength to compensate for slow lateral movement, and somehow that gets rewarded. But if Angel plays physical, suddenly she's too aggressive. You see the pattern, right? Now here's the part that really gets under people's skin. Some voters reportedly dismissed Reese because her team didn't make the playoffs. But that logic falls apart fast. History is full of all-defensive players from non-playoff teams in both the WNBA and NBA. It's not supposed to be a team success award. It's supposed to be about you, your grind, your consistency, your impact. So when people say, it's because she didn't make the playoffs, that's not analysis. That's excuse-making. Let's talk about what this really means. Because this snub isn't just about one name missing from a list. It's about how we evaluate defense and how bias seeps into the voting process. The truth is, Angel Reese is being graded on a curve. Not for her numbers, not for her effort, but for her personality. She's loud, confident, unapologetic. And for some voters, that's too much. They want quiet greatness, silent production. They don't want the player who points to the scoreboard after a block or lets the crowd know she's built for the moment. But isn't that what sports are about? The energy, the edge, the fire? It's funny, Moisen, because if a player like Draymond Green brings that same intensity in the NBA, he's praised for his passion. When Angel does it, she's doing too much. That's the double standard we're seeing unfold. And here's another wrinkle. Jackie Young. Somehow she didn't make the list either. Let that sink in. One of the best two-way guards in the league, who routinely locks up opposing stars, didn't even make the second team. If this is supposed to be a defensive list, why are actual defenders getting left off? It's because the voting process is broken. That's not conspiracy talk, it's observation. Former players have been saying it for years. Too many people with votes don't actually watch games. They go off box scores, social media buzz, or reputation. That's why names like Breanna Stewart get automatic nods, even when they're injured, even when their defensive effort drops. Stewie, for example, missed multiple key games, and when she did play, she wasn't guarding the toughest assignments, but she still made it in. Why? Because of reputation, because of optics, because voters remembered her from last year, not what she actually did this year. That's the issue. The league keeps moving the goalpost. When a young player like Angel dominates statistically, they say her team didn't win. When a veteran underperforms but plays for a top squad, they say, yeah, but her leadership matters. Either way, it's a built-in excuse to protect certain names and block others from the spotlight. And this spotlight matters. Because awards like this shape contracts, endorsement deals, and public perception. Being on that list means recognition, validation, and money. Getting left off means being labeled almost good enough. That's not just about pride, that's about opportunity. Let's rewind for a second. Remember how Angel's rookie year began? Critics said she'd struggled to translate her college dominance to the pros. That she was too emotional, too raw, too physical. Then she stepped into the league and immediately started putting up double-doubles. It was nothing. She didn't just play defense, she lived it. She dove for loose balls, fought for every rebound, and made veteran players uncomfortable. And for that, she got snubbed. There's something poetic and frustrating us about that. Because when you see a young player do everything right, yet still get overlooked, it makes you question what's really valued in this league. Now let's look at the ripple effect. Angel's not the only one being disrespected. Jackie Young, like we mentioned, got left off. So did Zia Cook and Sydney Rivers, players who guard elite scorers every single night. You can feel a trend here. It's not about who deserves it, it's about who fits the narrative. And speaking of narratives, this whole defense is about steals idea needs to go. Leading the league in steals doesn't automatically make you elite. Steals can come from risk-taking, not discipline. True defense is about containment, positioning, and consistency. It's about making the other player hate every possession. That's what Angel Reese does. That's what Jackie Young does. So why are the voters ignoring it? Maybe it's laziness. Maybe it's bias. Maybe it's both. But either way, it's hurting the credibility of the league. Because when fans see a list that doesn't line up with what they're watching, they stop trusting the process. Let's be honest, NBA has been fighting for more recognition and respect, but that respect comes from fairness, from getting the details right. And when your all-defensive list looks like a popularity contest, people stop taking it seriously. You want proof? Go look at how fans reacted online. Social media exploded. Even neutral analysts, though people with no stake in the argument, were saying, "This list makes no sense." Hashtags started trending. Players themselves started liking posts that called out the snub. That's how you know it hit a nerve. And here's the irony. Sometimes a snub says more than an award, because the public outrage reminds everyone just how good Angel Reese actually is. It keeps her name in headlines, it fuels her, and it makes the next season that much more personal. You can bet she's going to take this personally, but the bigger question is, will the league? Will they finally address how broken this voting system has become? Or will it just keep happening until fans stop caring? Let's zoom out. The all-defensive team is supposed to celebrate effort. The players who do the dirty work, diving, boxing out, contesting shots. The ones who don't make highlight reels but make winning possible. Angel Reese embodies that. She's not a flashy scorer. She's a grinder. She's the player who makes you pay attention. And maybe that's exactly why she got snubbed. Because grinders make people uncomfortable. They make stars look mortal. And in a league built on star narratives, that's not always convenient. Still, here's the twist. Every snub creates a story. Every no becomes motivation. Remember how Michael Jordan used to make up slights just to fuel himself? Angel doesn't have to make this one up. It's real. And next season, when she's back on the court, you can bet every missed shot, every blocked layup, every hard rebound will come with that chip on her shoulder. And when she dominates again, what will they say then? Because eventually the numbers will be too loud to ignore. Eventually the stats, the tape, the consistency, it'll all catch up to the politics. And when that happens, everyone who doubted her will be scrambling to say, "We always knew she was special," but by then the receipts will already exist. The fans know, the players know, and Angel definitely knows. What makes this so powerful is how it mirrors real life. How often do people get overlooked not because they're bad, but because they're too good at making others uncomfortable? Because they challenge norms? Angel represents that perfectly. But the truth always surfaces, and when it does, it's unstoppable. If you think this story ends with a snub, think again. The comeback is always louder. The silence from voters this season will become fuel for next year's highlight reels. And when Angel Reese locks down another star, when she breaks another record, when she forces another "how did she do that" moment, the same people ignoring her now will have no choice but to pay attention. Because you can't hide greatness forever. And as for the voters, well, the fans are watching them now, closely. Because this time, the excuses won't work. She didn't make the playoffs. Her team struggled. It's just her rookie year. We've heard it all. Next season, those walls fall away. And when they do, it'll be impossible to deny what's right in front of them. Angel Reese didn't just get snubbed. She got underestimated. And history has a funny way of correcting that. So the next time the all-defensive list drops and people start scrolling through the names, remember this moment. Remember the uproar, the confusion, the debates, because when Angel's name finally lands on that list, when she gets the recognition she's already earned, it'll feel that much sweeter. And honestly, maybe that's what makes this story worth watching. Because some players chase awards. Others make the awards chase them. Angel Reese is about to do exactly that.